Before we begin, I want to briefly address the ongoing situation with Myers Leonard. There's absolutely no place for this type of hateful speech anywhere, and I've been really proud of how the league and the Miami Heat have been leaders in fighting these types of injustices, particularly within the last year. I have the utmost confidence that this situation will be handled the right way and that resolutions will ultimately be found. Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Long Shot Podcast. I'm your host, Duncan Robinson, here with my good friend, Davis Reid.
We are back once again in our makeshift studio.
Yes, we are. And of course, we are brought to you by 342 Productions. But we got a fun one for you today. We got a nice little change of pace. Obviously, we've been kind of developing a little bit of a rhythm with the guests, but this time we got a little off-speed curveball changeup coming your way.
Yeah, we wanted to mix it up a little bit. We're also, while I was down in Miami, we thought it was a good opportunity to hit a mailbag episode.
That, and also, I will say, All-Star break contributed to our lack of ambition to ultimately find a guest. We kind of got into the waning hours of the week, and we just decided, you know what? Let's touch base with our listeners.
I was going to frame this as more of like we were planning to do this, but now that the cat's out of the bag, yeah, maybe it was that we couldn't get a guest.
Yeah, well, spontaneity is fantastic, and in my opinion, severely underrated. So I think that this will be fun. I think that it's a way to continue to engage with all of you guys, the listeners, the viewers, if you're on YouTube. But no, we got some great feedback, some great responses across a variety of platforms, I believe.
Yeah.
We reached out on Reddit, of course, also on Twitter, and I think that's where the train stopped. Just those two?
Yeah, so really just two platforms. But we also got some emails.
Yep.
People reached out via email. People also would DM on Instagram or Twitter. So
Sure.
Yeah, they were coming from a few different angles.
So because of the mailbag, we picked a bunch of questions. So we're actually just going to kind of skip right into it. One of my favorite segments is the long shot feature.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's going to have to wait until next week. But I do hear we have a great one on tap for next week.
Yeah, and how about the Reddit question of the week? Man,
yeah,
it hurts me that
we're just going to pass by those, but we'll keep both of them firmly tucked in the back pocket there.
Yeah. Before we do get to the mailbag, I want to quickly ask you, because I wasn't around for this past weekend, but I hear that someone stopped you outside of the apartment and asked if you were, quote, the guy with the podcast.
That is true. I will say I've started to get notoriety just off the podcast alone, which I actually prefer to my basketball abilities. I don't get noticed all that often in Miami just in general because I'm relatively low key, usually wearing a hat, and also people just don't really seem to care that much, which I'm very much okay with. But people seem to care about the podcast.
I just think that's so special.
It is. And I think actually you at one point got acknowledged. We were taking a nice walk with some friends, and somebody goes, "Is that Davis Reid?"
No, that's
just out of nowhere.
No, that's not at all what happened.
I think they must have seen your mixtape.
No,
your highlight tape.
No. What did happen though is for the first time in my career, someone stopped me and said, "Hey, big fan of the podcast."
So is that why you ultimately asked me that question? So this
Maybe.
could, in turn get reflected back onto you, and you could just really indulge in your moment of recognition.
Maybe.
I don't hate you for it. All right, let's just dive right into this mailbag. The format is kind of easy. We're just kind of making it work. This is obviously our first one, but Davis is just going to rattle off some questions, and we're just going to kind of kick it around a little bit.
Yeah, the first one comes from, this was on Twitter, Fernando91838. Fernando clearly hasn't listened to any of our episodes yet because he asks, did you always aspire to be an NBA player? But I did think this was an interesting one to ask you just because so I've been in Miami here with you over All-Star break. Yep. And we went up and saw your grandparents last weekend and had a great dinner with them. Yep. And you were telling them a story that I had never heard.
They're vaccinated, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Yeah. They're vaccinated. We kept a nice, social distance.
Yeah.
And of course, we're both getting tested every day. Right. But I just wanted to reiterate that we are being safe out
here. Correct, 100%. But you told them a story, or the three of you were kind of rehashing a story that I had never heard about the time you asked your mother through a handwritten letter if you could focus all of your energy on basketball. So I wanted you to share that story because I think it's a funny one. And even though you've been open about how you weren't aspiring to be an NBA player at all points, you clearly had your vision set on being a hooper in some regard.
Well, I'll start by saying you really took Fernando's question and really shaped it into your own. But with that being said, I hear what you're saying. I think that I always had the goal and dream of being an NBA player. Truthfully, those goalposts were so far down the line that for the vast majority of my career, I never really thought it could be a reality. As I continued to progress and kind of move forward, I started to gain more confidence that maybe it could happen. But the instance that you're referring to was I had just finished my junior year of high school, a year in which I hardly played, didn't really play that much. I was posting coaches' DMPs for pretty much the first half of the year. Started to kind of work my way into the rotation a little bit the second half of the year. We were very average. It's not like I was on a really good high school team. Certainly was no Olathe Northwest Ravens, I believe.
Nice.
But yeah, we were pretty average, and I didn't play that much. So logically, as a junior, if you're not playing on a pretty average team, you're probably thinking, well, this guy's not going to play in college. But I really wanted to. And originally, my main goal for basketball was to use it as a vehicle to get into a college that with just my academics, I wouldn't be able to get into. I wanted to go to a really good, prestigious academic school and set myself up for the future. So after not really playing a lot as a junior, I was on track to have a summer job that summer. And the previous summer, I'd worked as a line chef at Rye General Store, a nice little store out there on the beach.
Shout out to Rye.
My sophomore summer, I started as a dishwasher and worked my way up to a line chef. A lot of it was accredited to just my habits as a dishwasher, showing up on time, really just being diligent in my craft. Took a lot of pride in that.
Forget the D3 to D1 to NBA long shot story. How about that?
Yeah, I will say I'd be interested to see where, my counterparts, what their summer jobs were growing up. I don't think we had too many dishwashers. I'm sure a lot of guys were, on the AAU circuit as like an 8th grader. And I was washing dishes. So, my mom had me slated to go back to Rye General Store, maybe of hopes moving up from a line cook to maybe a full-time little cook. They did like breakfast sandwiches and everything. So it's not like it was some, fancy spot. But I remember telling my mom and pleading to my mom that this summer I really just wanted to work on basketball and that I wanted to set myself up to have a really good senior year. And I had to convince her that in order to have a good senior year, I needed to fully dedicate myself to basketball and being in the gym and living in the gym. And I wasn't going to be able to do that if I had to wake up at 6 a.m. to be there for the breakfast rush at Rye General Store. Instead, I needed to wake up at 6 a.m. to get some shots up and get a lift in and get some conditioning in. So I put pen to paper. Like so many before me have done. Great historians put pen to paper, and I just wrote her a letter, and I just made my case. I said, look, this is an investment. I'm potentially, at this point, I thought there was maybe a chance that I could be a scholarship player, which I wasn't the following year. But I said, this is an investment in that if I put time into my basketball, I will save money on college by getting a scholarship. And it was a pretty convincing letter. I was able to kind of finagle it because she still wanted me to work and have some sort of income into, I just worked like a bunch of basketball camps so I could still be in the gym. But it ultimately ended up working out, and she obliged, and I handed in my apron for just some more hours in the gym.
Wow. So a couple thoughts. First of all, shout out to your mother for letting you chase the dream.
I know you're listening, but you're the best.
There's no way you're not listening.
Yeah, of course.
But secondly, did you notice jumps that summer?
Yeah, I mean, I came back a completely different player. And it wasn't just that. Of course, I needed to be there and be putting in the work, but that was the summer where I started to figure some things out physically. I started to grow into my body, and I also surrounded myself with people that had similar aspirations of playing in college. And I think that when you surround yourself with people that are on the same path as you, your results are just amplified.
100%.
Yeah,
agreed. Okay, so great answer. Staying in that lane then. So think back to that age. Who were the guys? This is a question that came from Alvaro versus the World on Twitter.
Love it.
Who asked who our favorite players were growing up. So when you think to that time period, or maybe earlier, are there guys that you were specifically looking to at that age where you were like, maybe not necessarily to emulate your game, but just guys that you were like, okay, these are the guys?
Well, yeah. So, when you're younger, you're just kind of a fan of the game and you just like players just because they're really good or this or that. But as you kind of get older, and at least for me, I started to really like players that I kind of saw similarities in. So when I was younger, Paul Pierce was always my favorite player. I say that somewhat reluctantly, knowing that I play for the Miami Heat, and I understand fully the rivalry, I guess, for lack of a better word, that exists between particularly Paul and a former teammate of mine, D. Wade. But yeah, I grew up a Celtics fan in the Northeast, obviously not a Celtics fan anymore. But I was a Paul Pierce fan, and I really liked Ray Allen just because, I would try to try to play like him. And other guys, of course, JJ Redick, which is why this whole podcast thing has been kind of surreal to me, because now he's kind of my boss in some weird way, but we're also like friends, and he's in many times and instances offered me advice and feedback, and it's just always kind of crazy to see like a text from him pop up on my phone just because I grew up watching him, trying to emulate his game and do what he does. What about you? Who are your?
For me, AI.
I could see that. You guys have similar games.
Very similar games. I wore the number 3 growing up. I would take my baseball socks and I would cut off from the ankle below, wear it as an arm sleeve. Better believe it.
Wow.
I convinced my mom to buy me a finger sleeve one Christmas.
Did we go headband?
I think there was a phase where I was wearing a headband too. Wow. So imagine it's just...
You were just all in.
I was all in. All in. So AI for me. Steve Nash too.
Did you feel that having the sleeve, the finger band, the headband, did that help your game at all?
1,000%.
Really? Okay.
So much of the game is mental, and if you're wearing a baseball sock arm sleeve, you tell me you don't feel like a hooper.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So if nothing else, it's just the mental side of the game.
That'll do it.
Yeah. All right. How about let's go to not Ethi.
Either
Sorry
one.
if I'm mispronouncing that. But they ask, what is the main thing in developing a good jump shot?
So I get this question a lot in a variety of forms. People are definitely always asking me, how do you become a good shooter? What's it take? How many shots a day do you get up? And that question, it's changed over time. I think the biggest things when it comes to developing consistency with a jump shot is finding efficient form, first and foremost, something that's comfortable to you, something that is clean and that it lacks variables. Because for me, shooting is all about being able to do the same thing every single time. You hear great shooters talk like Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, Steph Curry. They talk about the goal is to emulate the exact same jump shot every single time. So in my eyes, how you do that is you try to limit it to as few variables as possible. So when you break it down, that means taking out a hitch or taking out your guide hand being, touching or pushing the ball. You want it to be as clean as possible. So you want to find something that's efficient and comfortable. The second biggest and the biggest thing is just repetitions, in that there's no substitute for reps. You have to find something, like I said, that's comfortable, but then you have to rep it out to the point where it just becomes the most extreme form of muscle memory, to where you can just call on it at any point and your body knows exactly what you're doing. I think that a lot of people get caught up in kind of other things, I guess, for lack of a better term. But it really just boils down to find something that's comfortable to you and just rep it all the way out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Has your form, because I saw a couple of these questions, has your form then changed a lot since being in the NBA? Because I agree, and you know better than I do, obviously, but just repping it out, that makes sense, getting something that you're comfortable with. But then for you, when you get to the point where you're now doing this professionally, I assume you can start to make finer tweaks at that point.
Yeah, I'm always making little tweaks and adjustments. I think that's part of kind of like who I am as a person. I just always feel like there's something kind of that could be better.
Are you doing that outside of basketball too? Or?
I try.
Yeah, okay.
I do my best.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of has it changed? Yes, because it's been required to. Particularly like when I moved from high school to college or college to the NBA, and I go back and I look at video of me shooting in high school, it looks different. And I realized that that's because the level required me to make adjustments. And it's not as much of like a conscious change. I think that, the breakdown and rebuilding of a jump shot, I think can work. I think there's examples of it working. But for me, it's more so just been little tweaks and adjustments. And over time, when you do that repeatedly, you see the product shift. But it's over years. I think anytime that you try to break something all the way down and then rebuild it back up, that's going to be really, really challenging. So when I've made adjustments, it hasn't been this like conscious change of, I have to move my elbow a little bit more this way or that way. And it's been more so about, I need to find a way to get this shot off faster, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get it off at this level.
And is that stuff happening throughout the course of a season? Like it seems crazy to me that you would be, playing one night and then 2 days later, it's like all of a sudden you're trying something different. I assume that stuff happens in the off season, or is it a constant thing?
It's pretty constant. It's more so that everybody has, this is another really important part of shooting, is everybody has little isms that they pick up, whether it be, for me, I'll just speak to myself and try not to project on other people. When I don't feel like I'm shooting well, it's that the ball is getting a little disconnected from my body, and my left elbow and not my right elbow. A lot of people think your shooting elbow is the important one. For me, it's actually my left elbow needs to stay in and tight. And what that does for me is it takes my guide hand pressure off the ball. So once again, if my left elbow is out and my guide hand is putting pressure on the ball, that's pushing the ball. That's a variable that's pushing the ball a certain way. Whereas if I keep my left elbow tucked, then my shooting hand, my shooting arm is just doing all the work and it's mitigating variables. So for me, what I'll notice is these little isms that I start picking up. And it's just a reminder. It's like fine tuning, it's like taking daily vitamins. It's however you want to say it. It's just regrooving. That's another term that I use. It's like grooving a golf swing, right? It's the same thing with shooting. You just might need little reminders on an off day or what have you to just regroove your jump shot.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to get to some on the court stuff. Bernie Nation asks, you and Bam have the most efficient two-man game in the league last season, points per possession. Okay. Did that come naturally, or did you and Bam have to specifically drill it, do anything special off the court to kind of form that bond that you guys have? Because you're doing it a lot this season too. In fact, you're doing a lot this season and some different actions off of that stuff. But yeah, how did that come about?
So it originally really started in that Wayne Ellington and Bam had a great connection and rapport, and they would get to these dribble handoffs. And that season that Wayne, I think he set the franchise record for the Miami Heat.
Yep.
Him and Bam really, I think Bam was in the second unit with Wayne, and they had this connection that was really hard for teams to guard and prepare for. So my first year was Wayne was here, and I spent a lot of time watching him film and then also working with him. So naturally, I kind of tried to assume a lot of those types of same actions. It's really just started out in that Bam is like so dynamic and capable as a playmaker and is just comfortable with the ball in his hands, and he's an incredible screen setter. and he's somebody that can handle the ball and have the ball out by the perimeter as a center. So that alone is really dynamic. So he's the one that really allows it to happen, and then so much of it is just me playing off of him. And then from there, when you have success with something, obviously in this league, teams and so forth are going to start to prepare for it and make adjustments. And that's what I saw a lot during the playoffs. Teams trying to take that stuff away, be more physical with me. And basically what I've seen this year is just a continuation of the playoffs, that type of defense, that type of focus every single night, in that teams are game planning to take me away for sure, but also a lot of it is taking away Bam's ability to distribute, because that's when we're really good, is when Bam is, hunting triple doubles and is up there and generating a lot of offense for us. So as a result, because teams have taken things away, you have to adapt and adjust. And that's when we've tried to get more and more creative and just find other ways to still be effective.
So what are some of those things? One of these, I actually had this question queued up from Riru44. They ask, how do you and the coaching staff plan when you know defenses are going to try to take you away? Like you said, especially you guys, all those handoff actions. It seems like you guys are doing more backdoor stuff this year. Is there other stuff that's been highlighted for you in terms of counters that you can run off some of those coverages?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, right. So I'll touch on it briefly, but
just concepts.
Yeah, I mean, so one way to do it is to incorporate more just catch and shoot actions, coming off of pin downs, wide pin downs. Another way is, like you said, to kind of free you up from the defense, is to keep them more honest by getting back cuts, getting stuff at the rim, and having them have to respect that aspect of your game more. Other ones are starting to do a little bit more in pick and roll, in just that then teams aren't able to like get really physical and knock down those handoffs. And then the other one is just try to find more stuff in transition when the defense isn't set and isn't able to, fully get in position to take some of those things away.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I won't press you on that.
Yeah, so we can just leave it at that.
Keep some of your secrets.
Yeah.
Let's see. James moves beef in all capital letters.
James
asks, for both of us, if you could add one NBA player's go-to move to your game, past or present, who would it be and why?
I'm going to let you take that one first.
I think I would go Dirk, one leg fadeaway. I remember
that would be dynamic in men's leagues games.
Oh, exactly right. Yeah, right. See, I don't have the height to really take advantage of it.
But in a men's league, you would.
Exactly.
You're 6'1", 6'2".
Tall enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I have flashbacks to like growing up and in high school trying to emulate that shot, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
So if I could add that to my game, I think it would take it to another level. I need to create space. I'm not athletic enough to do that anymore.
I'm going to go in the same category of wanting to create space, but in a very different way. I'm going to shout out a former Heat legend, Tim Hardaway Sr., with the patented Tim Hardaway cross.
Yep.
I think that if I had that in my arsenal, then I would be a handful to guard.
I agree. I agree you would.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Actually, you know what? Staying in the basketball lane, this was one of my favorite questions. 2v2, JJ and Tommy versus you and me.
Oh,
what do you think?
Goodness gracious.
Like, who? First of all, I assume you're taking us.
Oh yeah,
I'm taking us.
100%. I almost feel badly that they're not here to like defend themselves,
right?
But I just don't see a world in which we don't win that.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say that they're like, I could see some like them both being like kind of like wily vets.
True.
Some with all due respect, this isn't a jab, but like kind of some old man game getting incorporated into that.
Old man in the three.
Yeah, like some vet tricks, just like little stuff. Maybe some JJ's been known to kind of get it going.
Yeah.
Just verbally a little bit. Try to get some real estate in both of our heads. I think I could stand up to that. I don't know if you can handle that.
Who knows if I'm built for that?
I think if JJ Redick is sounding off at you saying that you're going to miss an open three, I don't know. I don't know if you have that in you.
So truthfully. What you're saying, the matchup comes down to if I can.
Yeah. If you can rise to the occasion, I think we're good.
Okay. I agree. And you know what? I'm betting on myself every time. I think I'm going to rise to the occasion.
Bet on yourself and double down.
Yeah. So, add JJ, Tommy. But just so you know, we're taking ourselves. All right, let's go to. This is from Nice Ass Lawn.
Nice Ass Lawn.
Congratulations, first of all, for having a nice lawn.
Yeah.
They ask, this is a question I've always wondered, how much does a late contest affect shooters? Watching you guys in slow motion, it's almost like you don't even register that the defender is in front of you sometimes, even when their hand is so close to yours.
We're really getting into the nitty gritty of shooting.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's a lot of that stuff.
Once again, I don't want to disclose too much to give my potential opposition an advantage, but I will say this. I've kind of gotten to the point where there's only certain types of contests that really bother me. This is kind of more public knowledge, but like, for example, I'll use another player as an example. James Harden, he just doesn't, he's not going to see an ordinary contest. So what you'll see is a lot of teams resort to is kind of the violent swipe, in that it's in hopes that it kind of like throws you off a little bit.
Yep.
When I'm coming to my right, moving to my right, and the defender is on my hip or behind me, trailing me, whatever, truthfully, I very rarely, it's not really about the defender at that point. I don't even really notice or see them.
Yeah.
There are instances, if a player has like really great length or something like that, then maybe they could disrupt it a little bit. But generally, and that's not that I'm like some anomaly, I think this is general NBA players are pretty comfortable. I mean, everyone sees contests and are just basically used to them at this point. There's only a handful of contests that can really impact shooting. Now, numbers would suggest, I know a lot of teams, this is just because this is stuff that we talk about, that, so-and-so shoots 50% with no contest, but all you got to do is get a contest and he drops down to 37. That's probably true. So numbers would maybe suggest otherwise, but as a player, my experience has been that there's only a handful of contests that really actually bother you. But yeah.
That's interesting. You're 6'8", so you have a little bit of a different advantage too if a shorter guy is on you.
Yeah. I mean, if you have vision to the rim, and for me, it's more about how I'm getting to the shot. Like if I'm comfortable in getting to it and that isn't disrupted, then I usually feel pretty good. And particularly a late contest is not really going to do much. One that a lot of people resort to, especially if I'm, coming off a handoff or something, is the kind of rear view. They'll kind of come behind me and try to get over the top. That one can be a little bit more bothersome because you just don't know where he is. Right. Whereas if they're trailing you, you're like able to spatially recognize, okay, he's on my hip. Like he can't get to this no matter what.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the Celtics did a lot of that.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and then for me, a goal is to just kind of tune out the defender like they're not there, obviously. And then good defenders are going to be pesky, and even if you try to tune them out, you're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. From Harmon 3112, they ask, if you could change one thing you did in your career, what would it be? Which I thought was a very interesting question.
This is an interesting one. I try not to live with regrets. I know that's very cliche to say. Of course, though, naturally, everybody has things that they maybe wish they had handled differently. I think that for me, I wouldn't go back and change anything because I'm pretty content with how the story kind of played out. But if I could go back, it would be, I had just finished my sophomore year playing at Michigan. I'd sat out a year. I played my sophomore year. You could make a strong argument that was my best year at Michigan statistically. I think I averaged 11 points a game. I shot like 45% from three. We were just okay. We scratched in and barely made the tournament. Lost, I think, in the first or second round to Notre Dame. We got in through the first four, and then won that game, and then lost to Notre Dame. That's what happened. So, anyways, I finished up that year, and for some reason, I don't really know why, but I got my tires pumped a little too much. And that summer, I went out and took 2 weeks off from being in school, because you have summer school in college. And I went out to LA and trained out there. And a couple of friends of mine were going through the pre-draft process. They were older than me because I was, at that point, I think a 22-year-old sophomore, 21-year-old sophomore, whatever I was. And I started to kind of like this life of, I'm out in LA. I'm working out every day. Basketball is now my job. And I started to kind of think you know what? This is where it's at. And I started to build this narrative in my head that I was going to go back as a junior. I was going to have a really good year, and I was going to graduate at that point anyways because I would have had enough credits. And then I was gonna leave and forgo my last year of college eligibility. Now, in hindsight, if you were to look back at my career statistically, you would think that I was absolutely crazy for thinking that. But at that point, I was 6'8". I just shot 45% from three. I just averaged 11 points a game. I was like, look, if I shoot it well again another year, I bumped that up to 14, 15 a game. I didn't think I was going to be some first round pick, but I thought that maybe a team would take a chance on a 6'8" kid who could shoot. So, of course, I go back for summer school, and mind you, I was still locked in and working hard for sure, but I started to get into this trouble zone of forecasting of this is how this is going to play out, and this is how many points I'm going to average, and this is now, I need to take this amount of shots. And all these things, I started basically worrying about the wrong shit.
Yeah.
And as a result, the way the basketball gods tend to do, I was quickly humbled. I remember the third game of the year, we were going to play in the 2K Classic in Madison Square Garden. I'm an East Coast guy, Northeast. I have 15 people drive down from New Hampshire, Boston to come to the game. I'd started the first 3 games, hadn't really played well, but I find out the night before we go to New York that I'm losing my starting spot. And, at the time, you're a dramatic college kid. It's like I'm getting benched. So there I am. We play Marquette the next day. I got 20 people in the stands. I play 7 minutes. And I was just embarrassed, just deeply embarrassed. And I quickly realized, and we won. So it's that terrible feeling of you're happy and you want to be a great teammate. And I was a great teammate outwardly, but you still have that feeling inside where it's wow, this is shitty. And that was obviously hard. I was very fortunate to have people in my corner that helped give me the perspective of it's important how you handle this. It'll build credibility as a leader. Do the right things, continue to sacrifice, be a good teammate, and everything will come around. And I did that for the rest of the year. I came off the bench the rest of the year. But I think what I really learned in that instance was don't forecast your success. Don't try to develop a plan. I think it's good to have goalposts of where you want to go, but just focus on the work. Focus on being present where you are. Be where your feet are, and just put in the work, and everything will fall into place the way it's supposed to.
I think that's so interesting from late nights at the bungalow in LA, thinking you're going to get, your league band.
I wasn't going to the bungalow. I wasn't living that type of league life. I was sleeping on somebody's couch, but it working out, 3 times a day, but it was still I want this life. This is what I want. And I was just worried about the wrong things.
There's nothing wrong with late nights at the bungalow. Shout out to the bungalow. But it's so interesting that then you have this moment, and I think it's fascinating to hear you say that, because it seems from the outside impossible not to get caught up in the numbers and forecasting and everything that's swirling on around you, especially now where it's on an even elevated stage. I can imagine it's hard at Michigan, but now it's a whole different platform where numbers matter and things matter, and you're approaching free agency. It's it's impossible. I think it seems impossible to block all of that out completely, but did going through that help you for something? Because you're now in a similar situation, it seems, where it's like, how do you not forecast to upcoming free agency?
Right.
And we have some questions about that too, but just how you deal with that mentally.
Well, your previous experiences, if you don't learn from them, then you're a fool. So I think listen, I that's one thing that I don't have a shortage of moments of being humbled in my basketball career, thinking that I got it figured out and quickly realizing that I don't. So at this point, if I weren't able to like apply that to my situation now, then I would just be doing myself a serious disservice. I mean, yeah, of course, anyone that says that they're able to block it out entirely is just lying. Of course, it's everywhere. So even if, you turn off your phone or you delete social media, which I do, it's unrealistic to say that it's gone.
Right.
And because it's happening and it exists. I think the important thing is to just keep the main thing, and maintain what's important. And like I said, just have a trust in your habits and your work that things will fall into place the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so we all like to be comfortable, right? And there's no better way to accomplish that than with Bombas socks. Bombas makes the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. They've literally rethought every little detail of the socks we wear to make them way more comfortable. I wear them every day and they are ridiculously comfy. Soft, warm, breathable. They got everything.
Very true. But Duncan, did you know that these socks do more than just keep feet cozy? They also help give back to the most vulnerable members of our community, because for every pair of socks you purchase, Bombas donates a pair to someone in need. The generosity of Bombas customers has allowed them to donate over 40 million pairs of socks and counting through their nationwide network of 3,000 plus giving partners.
Incredible. And the impact is more powerful than ever. To those experiencing homelessness, these socks represent the dignity of putting on clean clothes, a small comfort that's especially important right now. So give a pair when you buy a pair and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/longshot. That's BOMBAS.com/longshot for 20% off your first purchase. bombas.com/longshot. Dave, it's that time of year again. Bubble teams are making their final push for a bid to the dance, while the top seeds are preparing for what they hope is a long run. And DraftKings is giving all customers a free shot at up to $100,000 in total prizes. All you have to do is head to DraftKings app and make your picks.
It's true. Download the DraftKings app, head to their free-to-play pools page, and enter DraftKings' free $100,000 tournament seeding pool. Free-to-play pools are easy to play. All you have to do is make your picks for who you think will get a ticket into March's biggest tournament. If you have the most answers correct, you win. The bank is open.
Plus, don't forget about golf's fifth major this weekend taking place in Florida, where DraftKings will have even more money up for grabs. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So download the DraftKings app now and use promo code LONGSHOT to get a free shot at a share of $100,000 in total prizes with DraftKings tournament seeding pool. That's promo code LONGSHOT, one word, to get a free shot at $100,000 in prizes. Only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details.
It takes me to one of the questions we have in here about you looking at Reddit. And they asked, do you ever look at Reddit? Do players ever look at Reddit? But specifically, somebody asked, I want to find the username so I can shout them out. Heat Champs 2018 on Reddit asks, did you ever happen to look at Reddit during your rookie year? I feel bad if you did.
No, the answer is no. And I actually, it's funny because I know we have a Reddit question of the day. That really is your world.
Yeah, it is.
Particularly with stuff that pertains to me. Like I just try to stay away from it in general. I'll use Reddit as a resource for news and just because I'm not on Twitter, so it can be helpful in that sense. But I really do try to stay away from NBA Reddit, Heat Reddit, whatever, just because I'm a firm believer in whether they're singing your praises or saying you're terrible. Either way, it's pretty much toxic. And not to say that the people that are doing it are toxic, but more so, whether you think, you're hearing all the great things and they're pumping your tires and you think you can do no wrong, that's just as dangerous as detrimental as somebody saying that you're, the worst player and you can't make a shot. So, and I'm sure that's the other thing. In general, it's so volatile. Like, it just changes so quickly. So for my own, sanctity, I just try to focus on the people that are in my corner, that believe in me, and we'll just kind of move forward from there.
Yeah, no, and again, you have to, and it's smart to. As someone who spends a lot of time on Reddit, like you said, the Reddit question of the day is kind of my thing, and a lot of time on Twitter, it is insane how quickly things sway. Oh my right? God. Like you said, whether they're singing, whether you have a night where you go 7 for 10, and they're saying that, let's give this guy the max, or you go 1 for 10 and it's like immediately cut this guy, right? Like, it's just, there are so many polar opposite ends. And it's funny, I thought this question was hilarious because your rookie year, shout out to Heat Reddit, but they were brutal to you. It was like, why is this guy playing? Who is this kid? What is Spo doing?
I wouldn't know that they were, but I'm sure that they were.
And it's so funny to look back on it now. Yeah. It's like, it can be toxic. So I understand. And it's probably smart that you stay away from it.
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah. Okay. Gabe Maya asks, do you have a welcome to the league moment? Is there anything that comes to mind? I don't know if I've heard you talk about anything.
I would maybe say my first year, I was on the 2A. I was actually in Heat training camp. So my first training camp, and we're lining up for a free throw to block out. And I'm one of the lower guys. So obviously, I got to block somebody out. And I'm lined up with, I can't remember who it was, but it was a big, maybe like either Hassan or Bam or whatever. And somebody was on the opposite block. I think it was Kelly, and was like, yeah, let's switch. Like, let me block him out. And it was Udonis who was on Kelly's block. So I was like, yeah, let's switch. So then I go to block out Udonis, and Udonis looks at me, excuse my language, fucked up. He's like, and he turns to me and says, he goes, you think this is going to be easier? He goes, young fella, you got it all wrong. He goes, I'm a fucking beast. And of course, I go to try to block him out. Ragdoll just throws me out of the way. Goes and gets the rebound, kicks it out. Somebody makes a 3, and I was just like, "Yeah, I should probably go hit the weight room. Should probably go get a lift in."
That sounds like a pretty obvious, like, let's test the young guy moment.
Yeah, it was funny because it's like, obviously Udonis is smaller in stature than like a Bam or a Hassan, but he's the all-time leading rebounder in Miami Heat history. I mean, he's a savage, particularly when it comes to rebounding. So, here I was, him and I are like almost the same height, but he's a different type of dog.
A grown man strength, I think.
Grown man strength for sure. So that's an interesting one because it's like, that was before I even played a game. That was like, and I'm happy I got it when I did because it quickly reminded me, like, all right, I got to tap into something a little bit different if I'm going to survive here.
Have you been on the bottom block of a free throw since, or do you stay away now?
No, I mean, occasionally I will have to. But yeah, I just try to do my work early and clear my guy out and let someone else get the rebound.
That's incredible. All right, let's go to JM Born 45 asked, there's a thin line in sports of overthinking and forcing things versus playing too free and not concentrating. Do you try to think when you're out on the court, or do you try to play free and trust yourself and your instincts?
I mean, that's a great question. He kind of said it, and that it really is a thin line, and so much of, I think particularly as you move forward and the skill discrepancy tightens and narrows. I mean, there are so many talented players, particularly in the NBA. So many talented players. The guys that are not playing and checking into games are capable of being really good NBA players. It's just so much of the separator is situation, but then also mentally between the ears. So I think that you have to tap into that and for myself specifically recognize that as a potential strength and separator. with that being said, I'm a classic overthinker, like to a T. So for me, it becomes a lot about walking that line of trusting that I'm capable, that I'm good enough, and that I'm prepared for moments. And then also like using that competitive edge. So I think that, I will say this, a lot of like once you get into the game, you have to trust that instincts, your work, the time that you've put into your craft are going to ultimately take over. But I think that where you lean into the mental side of it is kind of like the long game, if you will. Like having the resolve to understand that the day in, day out might fluctuate and might be a little bit crazy and might not go how you want it to go. But having that like the deep rooted trust that in time, if you handle your business, put in the work, things will play out for you favorably.
Do you think back to, or like when you think back to that two-way moment with Udonis, or like your early moments in the league, is it a totally different level of comfort and trusting your instincts now? I assume, because early on, it's probably so easy to overthink things.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially as an undrafted guy who averaged 8 points a game as a senior in college, there are a lot of moments of it's like, I'm probably not good enough to be here. I think there's a ton of credit should be directed towards the Miami Heat in that they've like instilled a ton of confidence in me. I think that like anything, when you experience success, confidence starts to build and grow and compound. For me, it comes really from the two places of one, knowing that I'm prepared and that despite whatever, my college resume or the fact that I was drafted, like I've put in the work, like I'm capable and that at the very least, I'm deserving of these opportunities. I think that helps you sleep at night or helps you at least have some like peace of mind when you go into these types of opportunities. And then the other one being exactly what I just mentioned is once you start to see the ball go through the net and seeing the work come to fruition, then you kind of get that compounding effect of, all right, I'm starting to figure some things out. And then from there, it just slowly picks up and gains steam.
Yeah. All right, let's go. 2210. Let's go. Asks, how do you balance your celebrity status? Because you're big time now. With want for a normal life when you just relax around Miami. So, like we talked about earlier in the show, you walk out of your apartment and people are saying, hey, it's the guy with the podcast.
Celebrity status is a severe stretch. I'm in terms of the normal life comment, I very much live a normal life. Nothing like particularly glamorous about what I'm doing on my day to day, except for playing basketball at 7:30 or 8 lately. We've been playing a lot of 8 p.m. games. But if anyone ever comes up to me, I'm always happy to take a picture, or converse, or chop it up, or whatever, talk Heat basketball, whatever. Truthfully, it really doesn't happen all that much. I think a large part of it is that I'm relatively unassuming. I think I teeter that line between like being abnormally tall. Like if you're 6'10", 6'11", and walk into a room, it's egregiously obvious that you must play basketball. I think I get mistaken for like, oh, you're so tall. Like, are you like 6'4"? I get that all the time. Are you like 6'4" or 6'3"? I'm like, yeah, kind of, somewhere around there. So, the general comments of like, oh, you're tall. Do you play basketball? I just say, yeah, sometimes. I do. Sometimes I play basketball.
It happened. So I was here last year for the Super Bowl, which we've talked about.
Yes. Well documented on this podcast.
And it happened, occasionally. It's a lot different now. It's ramped up now. And I think that's in large part because of the success that the Heat have had.
I think a finals run will do that too.
A finals run will do that. It happens a lot now. But it's nowhere near some other guys. Like it's nowhere near Tyler.
Oh, yeah. I'm not even in the same conversation.
Right, like Tyler was shopping and they had to shut down.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, there's levels to this.
Right.
I don't remember exactly what rapper said that, but there are certainly levels and I'm on a totally different level, which I will say I enjoy.
Right.
It's nice to just kind of be anonymous.
We, the other day we were driving around and there were some kids out in the driveway playing basketball and we thought, oh,
well, let me just take this. We were driving around Miami. We were picking up some food,
and I see these two kids.
Wait, why can't I tell the story?
Well, just because I just want to set the stage.
I'm going to give my version of it, but go on.
We see these two kids playing basketball, and I just had them on. I was like, dude, wouldn't it be funny if I just like pulled up and just like asked for a jumper? I was in the passenger seat. I was like shot a quick jump shot, like said what's up, hopped back in the car and left.
Remember when the dunk challenge thing was a thing?
That's
where it was
right.
like driving by and you'd run out and dunk in somebody's driveway and then get back in the car. That's kind of the vision we had.
Right.
But with a jump shot.
Yes. And I thought it would be this like cool moment for these kids. And you know, you're hyping me up. You're you're like, oh yeah,
it's gonna make this kid's week.
This is gonna be awesome. I get out of my car. I ask for the ball. The kid is like startled and confused and is like just kind of like weirded out. Like, who's this random guy getting out of a car asking me for the ball that I'm playing with? He like reluctantly throws me the ball. I shoot. I miss.
I think you might have airballed.
I might have airballed. I don't know. Wasn't regulation. I miss. There's like this uncomfortable moment. Like in your head, it's like you get out, you like swish it, and it's like, yo, oh my gosh, is that Duncan? Kid doesn't even recognize me, doesn't even care at all. There's this awkward moment where I'm just standing. I kind of look back to you of like, dude, what do I do? I just get in the car and we drive off.
It's just some strange man asks for a jumper, misses it, and then just leaves.
Kid has no idea.
They had absolutely no idea. So yeah, maybe we have an overinflated view of your celebrity status in Miami.
It must have been the mask. I think I was wearing a mask. A kid didn't recognize the mask. Whatever it was.
Yeah, buddy, I'm sure it was the mask.
I will say it's somewhat scarred me. I certainly won't be pulling up to any courts and taking any jump shots anymore because that was a shot to the ego.
Oh, that's an all-timer. All right, Duncan. How about this? Duncan Robinson's burner on Twitter.
Love that.
You've got a burner.
Yeah, I guess so.
That you have no affiliation with, for the record.
Yes.
But Duncan Robinson's burner asks, what did you do during All-Star break?
That's a particularly relevant question. I like that one. Kept it low key, basically. Davis obviously was in town, so we I think you referenced this earlier. We shot up. I have some family that lives up in the West Palm Beach area, so we went up there just to kind of get a little peace and quiet, which was nice outside of the city. Played a little golf, a couple rounds of golf, worked out, ate some good food, got in the gym, and just spent some good time with some friends. So that was pretty much the extent of it. But it was a restful break for sure. Nice to just get a couple days where we're not traveling or worried about games, but get my body right for the second half. And yeah, I'm excited to get back to it. That's one thing I noticed is you want the break to come, and then about halfway through the break, or at least a couple days into the break, I was like, this is good. I'm like itching to get back to playing. So
yeah, it felt like a necessary break. We were just talking this morning. You guys play, I think, 12 games in 20 days.
Yeah, it ramps up here very quickly. So
it's wild. I mean, it's what, 32, 36 more games?
36. Yeah.
And it's just, it's in like 2 months.
It's a sprint.
It's going to fly by.
Sprint.
But yeah, it's been great. This last week's been great for me. I've just got to benefit kind of off of your vacation, which is,
man, we're all on vacation.
What more can you ask for? All right, I wanted to lastly get to, we had a few questions about this, and we've actually had a few like comments about this too. When were we going to address it? But Top Shot, NBA Top Shot.
It's the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. I'm sure I'm sure you guys have done your research, or maybe you've already been asked this question, but if not, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm active in the community, first and foremost.
In that
I have an account, and I have some moments to my name. I believe 9 moments, all of which are my teammates, and I think I have one of myself. But I think it's super interesting. First and foremost, it's crazy to see it just take everything by storm. The NBA community, the basketball community, social media, and just the craze. I mean, I've had friends who have no interest in basketball that have reached out to me about it. So I'm a part of the community. I think that it's really cool how the Player Association is kind of involved, and how it's all officially licensed through the league. So it's certainly obviously gaining a ton of traction, and it seems like there's a ton of potential there too, and that it's only going to continue to go up from here.
I've got a couple gripes. One, they still haven't used my highlight tape to make me any moments.
Well, it's because it's not licensed content.
I mean,
by the NBA.
I think we can work around the red tape.
Probably.
Secondly, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like it. I also have an account and I'm interested in getting involved, but I say that I don't get it and that I need to do a lot more understanding of the platform before I dive in at first.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I've heard a lot of people. I've heard a lot of negative feedback, I should say, saying, "Oh, it's what's the difference between watching this on YouTube or there's no way this is worth all this." And something is worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it.
That's true.
There's a saying in the association that there's no such thing as an overpaid player. In that if somebody was willing to pay them, then that's what they're worth.
That's fair.
And but I think that applies to this too, in that, especially people are buying all of these moments. What's really driving it is that there's an expectation that they're going to continue to increase in value.
Yeah.
In that people are thinking, look, this might be, I might be spending $2,000 on a Duncan Robinson 3, and I might not even know who Duncan Robinson is.
Right.
But there's an expectation that at some point that 3 is going to be worth even more, and that they can personally and financially benefit from that. Not to get into like an economics lesson here, but just because I'm not even close to qualified to begin to do that,
and neither am I, but who is?
Yeah.
I just, the fear that it also goes to zero is what is holding me back. But
that's
I guess
a risk
you're right.
that clearly thousands upon thousands of people are willing to take.
You're right. And I suppose it's no different than art, right? Like the poster behind us only has the value that, someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting kind of like social narrative around hype.
Yeah.
In that, particularly in today, eyeballs and gaining eyeballs and traction and visibility has immense value. And I think that we've seen it in a variety of ways. There's actually a company that I'm really fascinated by called Mischief that does something really similar. So shout out to Mischief. But they basically do the same thing. They capitalize on hype, and they have like drops every 2 weeks, the same way people wait in line to get sneakers or get merchandise, in the same way people are waiting in line to get Top Shot, people wait in line for Mischief to get their drops. And really nothing has like inherent value until people give it value.
That's fair. And it is. That's what it becomes so difficult to get your hands on one of these.
Yeah.
Which is, obviously what's driving the value. There have been times where I've tried to get in line for a pack.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you sign in a minute late and you're 100,000 and, behind you or in front of you.
Yeah. It's all very abstract for sure. But that's not to say that, once again, there's not serious opportunity there, because I think that a lot of people would argue that there's a ton of financial opportunity. And then also I think the interesting thing is the kind of like sentimental value of some of these things, and owning your favorite player's moment. Like that's a cool experience for a fan. So I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out, but I'm interested in it. Like I said, I'm active in the community. I'm certainly not going to sell any of my cards. I'm going to hold on to them. They mean something to me.
You're right. And I look, I don't really get it, but I am interested in it and I understand the value in it. All right. Last question I got for you from Buffet Food. They ask, if you didn't make it to the league, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
That's a great question.
Let's no basketball.
No basketball.
No
okay,
basketball.
Yeah. That's an important.
You're not playing
in
Slovenia either.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. If I wasn't playing in the NBA, I would be playing somewhere else for sure. But if I wasn't playing basketball at all, I think that. So I was actually a double major at the University of Michigan.
Hey now, gotta get that.
Yeah, I was political science and sport management. So I'm interested in politics. I would not want to be a politician. I think that some sort of like bipartisan social justice kind of framed initiative to whether it be about voting, getting people voting, or just like issues that I'm particularly passionate about. Mass incarceration is for sure one. Affordable housing is another one that I think is particularly prevalent. And so I think maybe something in that space, or if not, it would probably, if it weren't that, it would probably be something in basketball as well. Maybe coaching, or maybe something on the like front office side, if I could kind of finagle my way into doing something of that sort. So I don't really have a great answer for you, but yeah.
I think those are all great answers.
Thank you.
You'd be running a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Or you'd be working at like the Equal Justice Initiative.
Yeah.
And you'd be coaching basketball on the side.
Yeah, honestly, I should put some specificity. Cut 50 with Van Jones would be a really cool opportunity, and the EJI with Brian Stevenson, both of which I think would be really, really great stuff. So specificity is important.
It's key.
I apologize for my
always key. All right, that's all I got for you.
We're wrapping it up, the mailbag?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel wrong that the questions only went one way. I got a question. I'm gonna shoot one back at you to finish up.
All right, good.
If you were to have one actor play you in a movie, who would it be?
Great question.
That's from Duncan Robinson's Not Burner.
Whoa. Justin Timberlake, obviously.
I don't really think that counts.
Of course it does. He was just in a movie.
I want a different one.
Justin Timberlake is the answer, but if you're making me go with another one, I'm going to go the late, great Heath Ledger.
Wow.
I used to get comparisons to Heath Ledger from my family when I was a kid.
From a look standpoint?
Yeah. When I was a kid.
Dear.
Yeah, like Babyface. Similar features.
You lack the hair, though. He had the...
True.
I mean, yeah. Well, anyways, we'll let you guys decide.
He's great, very talented, incredibly gifted, talented actor.
If there's any validity to that claim, I don't seem to think that there is, but...
Justin Timberlake 1, Heath Ledger 2.
Good answer. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. That's the mailbag. Let us know what you guys think. I actually had fun doing this.
Yeah.
A little peek behind the curtain. We're going to get back to our guests next week, but maybe if this is a particular fan favorite, maybe we can continue to make this a part of the routine.
Yeah, I had a blast. Hey, thank you for all of your answers. Thanks for sharing wisdom and knowledge with the people.
Anytime. That's what the Long Shot's all about. So thank you for joining us. And of course, as always, tune in next week on the Long Shot.
Peace out.